Podcast. I am your host, Evan Herman, and today I get to talk to one of my friends, Kevin Miller, who has the podcast Self-Helpful, previously known as the Ziglar Podcast. And today we're going to be talking about what it means to have a lifestyle of rest and not just lay down, watch TV, take a nap, but what the embodiment of rest looks like and how to discover for yourself the applications of what you need to live in that lifestyle. And through that process, there's a self-discovering of who you are at your core and challenging your own personal beliefs and identity to find your authentic self. And out of discovery of that, then submit that to, okay, do I keep this? And challenge your own beliefs. Challenge your own ideas about who you are and see if that's true or if that's a narrative that needs to be let go. You're not going to want to miss this episode because it'll probably change your life. Kevin, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on to the show again. You have been a friend of mine for, quite a few years now. And it started off with your podcast and reaching out to you and learning from your life and the representation of Zig Ziglar. And through this process, not only have you inspired me to start a podcast, and now we're going on, 165 episodes, almost 3 years now. And it has drastically influenced and changed my life, you as a person. And so today, having you on the show, I get to talk about your new book with you and how you have found things in your life to basically drive your purpose and rediscover some of the things in your life that you weren't aware of. And so right off the bat, your book, What Drives You? I want to know what drives you specifically.
Well, that's the big question. And there's, as it took a whole book to write about, there's so many things that drive us. And I was, speaking of Ziglar, I was at an event, a Ziglar event, and speaking on stage and talked a little bit about even Ziglar, Zig Ziglar himself. We look at him and go, gosh, he was driven by, purpose, and he was driven by helping other people. And that's true. That was a core drive. He was also driven to have fun and I showed a clip from an interview that I did with him, one of his last interviews. And he talked about when he first saw a guy on stage speaking about something inspiring. And Zig said, man, I want to do that. That's exciting. I mean, the first spark was it just excited him. It could have been a clown. It could have been, a car salesman. It could have been whatever. He just saw something that he thought, oh, that's fun. I want to do that. And I put a lot of importance on that because we do look to that altruistic thing. And I think there's a deeper level for anybody who has a heart for the world and a heart for others, which I think at the core is most people. And we want to be of meaning to other people. We really do. And which sounds altruistic, but I want to because it makes me the happiest. It's totally selfish. It really is. Now, I've Anthony DeMello is an author that I appreciate, and he would say everything we do is selfish, but you can have a higher evolution of selfishness, like one that serves others and not just yourself. So we can take credit for that. But man, so back to that, what drives me is the things that inspire me. I mean, I'm as driven. I want to have purpose in people's lives. I'm also driven today to head out in the woods on my mountain bike and just have a blast, and to have a great meal tonight and to have fun. So, and I've lost sight of that sometimes. I've thought that, man, life's just all duty, take care of the family, just, pour out till there's nothing left. And I did that until I couldn't, until I burn out. And I wasn't being true to the things that I really enjoyed too. So I continually have to call myself back to that as well. And I find that the people that I love to be around, man, they have fun. They really do. And they work hard and they serve other people, but they also have fun. And I think we often forget about that and even devalue that. At least I did, Evan.
You said something that I want to touch on. You said you felt like you were just pouring yourself out and then you had nothing left to give. Within Christianity and there's this concept of overflow versus pouring out. And for those listening, imagine a glass, and you're the glass, and the essence of you is in the inside, and you want to help people, and you just pour yourself out till you're empty, and then you have no more to give, and then you're hurt, broken, and drained yourself. Well, this concept of overflow is that you constantly are being poured into to where you're overflowing and you're running over, that it saturates the other areas around you. Gary Keller has this saying that live your life, that your world is so big that it affects change in other people's lives. Mm-hmm. And for you and me, Kevin, at least for me, for a long time, I didn't know what drove me. I didn't have the emotional intelligence to handle many situations in my life. And so I felt constantly being poured out. And this idea of overflow is really more of a state of mind than almost anything else. And then there's practical steps to that. And so my question to you is, let's say I'm someone who isn't living in overflow, and I might not have that emotional aspect dialed in yet. What are some of the steps that I can take or knowledge that I need to start being filled up, number one, and second question, then to live a life of overflow?
Well, that's a good and big question. I am continually drawn back to our core beliefs, to my core beliefs, and how profound it is, how rooted we are in our core beliefs that are often errant. They're very seldom based on fact. They're things that we have intentionally or unintentionally, consciously or subconsciously agreed to that aren't really fact. And you just laid out a huge one that is, it's easy to listen to and nod to, but it's near impossible for a lot of us to walk out, is that aspect of pouring out. You know, it's interesting. I've got so I'm wearing, well, actually I have it charging right now, but I wear a Garmin watch to track my runs and my rides. And the latest ones have a lot of health data. So it's got a body battery. So every morning I look at my body battery. And, you know, your hope would be that you slept, you had really good sleep, which it shows me my sleep quality, and that my body battery is at 100%. And I get to start the day off at 100%. And a lot of times it's not, because I didn't sleep well, because I ate something that bothered me and kept me awake. I was stressing about something. I just didn't sleep enough, whatever it is. And I did not recharge. So the day, you know, starts and I'm at 64% instead of 100%. Well, I'm going to edge down pretty quickly, you know, and I can get to the bottom of the barrel. And I've done it plenty of times, Evan. Yeah. And you know what? I don't die. I'm not like a drone on a battery, and I just, you know, it hits zero, dad's out, you know. I can still keep going, but I'm not inspired. I'm not full of hope. I'm not full of grace and compassion. I'm not the fullness that my family would like to experience dad or husband or friends as. So I can keep going, but they're getting the crumbs. They're not getting the fullness. And I think that we know that we can keep going, you know, in essence, but it's not the fullness that other people would like. It's not the people we're drawn to. We're drawn generally to people who are full. Man, who are just, we love to find somebody who's inspired, who's hopeful, that raises and elevates us. Like you said, they're overflowing, man, and they got room to pick us up and elevate us. I mean, we love that. But we don't think about ourselves. We think that we're doing the world a favor by earning the income, which we need to do, by taking out the trash, by doing this, by doing this, by doing this. And man, I can do like mad. If there was like a do competition, I think I would do pretty well. And I think most of us would, especially guys. We can do. But then so often what our wives want, what our kids want, what our friends want is us to be. Can you just be with me? Can you be happy? Can you be enthusiastic? Can you be hopeful? Can you be enough to listen to my hardship and to deal with my problems? Man, because when I'm at the bottom, I can do. That's what I'll revert to. When I got nothing left to do, I got nothing left for you emotionally like that, I'll do. And that's better than nothing. It's better than crawling in a cave, I guess. So I'll go do, So when I can't give my wife a good word of encouragement and I can't give her any hope or inspiration or listen to her, issues that she may need a listening ear for, I can go clean her car. That's easy, man. I can do that on a dead battery, but that's not what she wants most. And man, that's big medicine. It's really hard. So I'm saying that out of knowledge, and every day I'm trying to live that out. And it's hard. It is hard. I wish I could just get all the kudos and joy and fulfillment out of just doing. Man, that would be so much easier. And yet, I want things that require me to be. That's not a language that I spoke naturally, so I'm learning.
I love that because, when you talk about a phone, we charge it overnight. We have 100% battery, and then you relate even our bodies as a battery that we might not even start off at 100%. And I think in some way we have this level of expectation that we do. And over the last few days, Kevin, I've been in a pastor's conference. And what was so unique about this pastor's conference is they talked, like the theme of it was rest. And what was funny is that it actually had very little to do with rest. The speakers actually talked about inner healing. And I started thinking about, wow, so many times we can't rest because we're not healed. We have emotional wounds that keep us from being able to experience rest. And in this process of this seminar, it would go from 9 to 12:30.
Yeah.
And then we'd have a short lunch. And then we would have, say, till from 1 to 1:30, let's call it 1:30 to 6:30 of nothing. I can't tell you how many conferences I go to that it is packed.
Sure.
And then you're just so drained by the end of it. And what I took away from this, man, I was drained still, but there was room for rest that they carved out in this seminar. And it allowed me to go back to the hotel room and recharge.
Yeah.
How do we take that aspect of our life? Okay, I have wounds in my life. I lack emotional intelligence in certain areas. I consistently pour myself out, and the lack of rest that I have are from issues that I haven't dealt with. And so if I want to enter into a state of rest to recharge, how do I do that?
I appreciate your encouragement on what you've gained from my shows, Evan, and you have given me credit, which I appreciate and I will take some of. I also, as you know, though, am a curator, and I bring guests on. And you're asking a question right now. I'm about to have here. I'll hold up the book for you and anybody who watches the video. This is a book I'm reviewing right now. I actually have her, or I record with Britt Frank, psychologist. I record with her tomorrow, and it's The Science of Stuck. But she's got some points in there, and she talks about trauma, term that comes up a lot. She is changing and adding to my paradigm on trauma because so many of us don't relate to that. I don't have some life-threatening thing that's ever happened to me. I have no abuse. I have really nothing. I would downplay it and call it first world problems. Now, she does a good job of validating that and saying, trauma is trauma. It is. If you have something that hurts you, that handicaps you, that limits you, it just is. There's no reason to judge it. It is. And to be aware of that. And she even talks about it in the terms of just overwhelmed. When your mind is overwhelmed and can't deal with, cope with, mitigate something, that's a trauma in essence. That's something that's going to stick, and that can cause you anxiety, and that can eat away at you, for forever. And so when you talk about rest, I think you're totally right. We don't look to our emotions. I don't. I finally had somebody, oh my gosh, who is it? I almost want to say it was Steve. It was either Steven Kotler, the flow guy, or it was Robin Sharma, the 5 a.m. Club guy, and other stuff. I can't remember which one of them that talked about getting away, which I do a lot, and I have for a long time. I'll just get away solo, but I didn't always understand why. And they said it's an emotional sabbatical. And I thought, oh my gosh, I didn't think about it that way. I just thought I'm getting away from duties, the dues, right? I don't have to do. I get to go and just be on my own. I didn't realize that. And when you talk about rest, it's interesting. As you're talking, I pulled up my phone to look at it's called Garmin Connect, just my little wearable device stats. And when it looks at sleep score, it doesn't just look at and say, hey, you slept 8 hours, you're good. It looks at sleep duration and gives me a score. How long did I sleep? But then it's going to look at how much stress was my body experiencing, which you can look at my heart rate variability and look at stress. Yep. Then it can look at deep sleep. How much time did I have a deep sleep? How much light sleep did I have? We need that. How much REM sleep did it have? Last night, mine was okay. My sleep duration was really, I don't know why I got up so stinking early. I was trying to sleep in some this morning, but so it wasn't super long. My deep sleep was excellent. My REM sleep was poor. So I'm looking at that. So when I look at that, I think, oh, we're going to get away and we're going to rest. What does that mean? There's a lot of different levels. Like you talked about, we can just rest our physical body. Like don't do a bunch of stuff. Yeah. We can take relief. I think I had that told to me by a couple people in the past, talk about how we generally look at relief. Come home at night, kick your shoes off, watch some Netflix, have a bag of popcorn, which is cool. But that's relief. That's not restorative. That's not rejuvenative. We don't get up from that and go, oh man, I feel awesome. We don't spend, a whole day watching sports and eating a bag of chips and a few beers. That's fun, man. That's cool. But we don't get up from that and go, man, I feel recharged. And you might kind of feel like crap and, your stomach's a mess. What do we do that actually renews us? Which doesn't have to be, I got a friend who goes to a monastery and he'll spend a couple of days. I don't like that a whole lot. That's not a whole lot of fun for me. So that's not what I'm talking about. For me, it could be, whatever you find the thing that you need, that you want, that does it for you. For me, I'm going to go away for true rest. And this is, of course we need it daily, but I'll go away on getaways. I'm thinking about it because I'm about to go on one. And I'll do some epic rides and runs, mountain bike rides, runs out in the remote forest. That's what does it for me. After a contemplative morning with some great coffee. And if I'm going to go do a big run, I might even do a donut. And then go.
You a donut? Really?
Yeah. Oh, dude. Yeah, man.
When did this change?
Donut and coffee? No, it's always been me. I just don't do it often. I'll do it before a big ride. But then I'll have some contemplative time, and then I'll come back and I'll have some inspirational time of thinking, usually thoughts that I'm jazzed about or something, and just really enjoy that. And then I might find a show, something like that, to where that I think is going to move me. I like shows or movies, whatever, the character that
Rudy.
Yeah, something like that. It could be, it could be even hard and gritty. It could be heartwarming. I don't know. I just do what it is, but I'm looking at that, at what really recharges me. And I like to take in new ideas, probably like you, and I'll have a good book with me that inspires me, that's teaching me something, and I'll ruminate on that. Yada. We can all go down. Everybody's going to have their different formula for what does that. Even the formula for me that gives me good sleep is going to be different for you. There's some things that you can eat.
And the amount.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. The amount, whatever. And there's going to be some things that you may be great on popcorn. If I eat popcorn before I go to bed, my sleep is wrecked. My body doesn't like corn a whole lot. Don't know why. Yeah. Yada. So, man, your question is a big one. How do we actually recharge and renew? That's going to take some work, and go vet some people, that are inspired, ask them, and take it with a grain of salt, because what works for them is not going to be exactly the thing that works for you. But, and you find that it's powerful.
Over the weekend and last week, I was around a lot of international pastors. And one of the key things is
a terrible group for filling themselves up and recharging, by the way. Yeah.
That's funny. Well, what's funny though is, cultural differences, language barriers, dealt with all that. But the way that they talked about going to have a nap, they would say, I'm going to take rest.
Yeah.
And that stuck out in my mind like a sore thumb hit after a hammer. I'm taking this. It's like, I deserve this. And normally we'll say, I'm going to go take a nap. But when I looked at them and they said, I'm going to take rest, that had a deeper meaning to it, especially since they are jet lagged
Yeah.
from coming over here still. And so in this process of thinking about rest, you know, I know at least in my life, I have several different ways of doing that. One is I literally lay down in front of a cold fan. Like that's one of my favorite things to do. To make my body cold. For whatever reason, it helps reset my nervous system and it relaxes me. I also, in terms of rest that isn't sleep, dude, I like going to a chiropractor, you know, and that helps reset. So what I physically do is I do things to reset my nervous system. Because for me, when I don't feel in a state of rest, if I feel depleted, for me, anxiety comes in because my nervous system gets out of whack and then I struggle with anxiety. So I constantly have to do things that helps reset my nervous system.
Yeah.
And getting the appropriate amount of sleep, number one, is the most important thing, which you were talking about through your Garmin. And I think you and I both have the Oura Ring as well.
I don't. I'm aware of that. I think the Oura, on that note, the Oura Ring and the Whoop, Whoop is a strap you can use, are probably top of the line for really understanding you. So I wouldn't recommend Garmin, especially for accuracy. And that does show me trends, so it's helpful. But yeah, the Oura is rock star.
Yeah. And so something that Kevin, this is funny. Something that I noticed is if I get less than about 6.5 hours of sleep, I'll be okay, but it's hard. But if that happens to me 2 days in a row, forget about it. Yeah. Like I have to get 7 hours. Even if I hit 8, even 8's too much. And so my sweet spot is 7. But here's what's crazy. Kind of a side note to what we're actually talking about. But what I didn't know is I had pretty bad sleep apnea.
Oh, yeah.
But my ring, the ring that I wear, the Oura Ring, notated that I was having oxygen issues in the middle of the night. I'm like, well, then I guess that would mean sleep apnea. So I took a sleep apnea test. Dude, I stopped breathing 18 times an hour.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So imagine, like, the way that my body then kicks into rebreathing while I'm asleep is by dropping cortisol and endorphins to wake my system back up enough to start breathing again.
Yeah.
Dude, I had cortisol racing through my body 18 times an hour. Like when I woke up, I was exhausted because it wasn't restorative. And so in this process of what we're talking about is you need to figure out, like you have to learn your body. You have to learn your mind. You have to learn what your emotional status is. You have to be self-aware. And going back to the name of your podcast, then you have to become self-helpful. Yeah. You have to learn how to help yourself.
Yeah.
And so, man, in your book, something that stuck out to me, one of the chapters, I want to pull it back up over here as I'm opening it. What drives your body and mind? Something that is conducive, whatever that
conducive.
word is. Conducive.
I like your word better though.
Conducitive.
Yeah.
To the whole person is spirit, mind, and body.
Yeah.
How do we relate what drives us into the aspect of wholeness and into the areas of spirit, mind, and body?
The book is really an effort to get us to audit ourselves for, at the face value, what we really want. And it's a way to ask the question, what do you want? And then state it and then say why. And then you'll give an answer. And the real why is going to be about 5 levels under that. Why do you want that? And you'll give the answer. And why do you want that? And you'll get down to the root thing and you'll finally get to an emotion, as you talked about, and ultimately a value. What do I really value? So often the things that we say that we want, that we're going after, that we're striving for every day, we don't know why. And it's often not the right thing. And I don't mean to say that, somebody that they don't know at all what they want. I mean, of course you probably know some things, but to not know why and to not know the methodology. But I find out when we really dig down to our values, That's where our wholeness is. What do we value? What do we really want? Not the expectations that we grew up with, not the expectations of the culture, not even the expectations that we got exposed to and just embraced for we don't even know the reason. And this is part of my story. Some things I was going after. And I was whole, as you would say it. I was whole and fulfilled in my pursuit of, let's say, health and wellness. Man, that's always been a solid one for me. I know what I want. I know why. I want to feel good today. I want to feel good when I'm 90 as best I can. And man, I know what I want and I know why. Short term and long term. I'm good. I'm solid. Now you ask me financially, man, I was way off the rails. If you ask me what did I want financially, money. Why? Well, to pay the bills. Really, that's it. So just enough to pay the bills. Well, no, I'd like more. That'd be fine. But then when you see my behavior, it didn't line up, and I sabotaged myself over and over because I didn't want to be about money. I didn't want to be about ego and power and all the guy stuff. I wanted to be about when everybody think that I care about them, which sounds good and altruistic, man, but it was just purely selfish. I was medicating a personal identity issue. I was not whole. And so it took a lot of work. And I think a lot of us are running pretty strong after stuff and we don't know what we want. And when I find people do the work, like go through the book and do the work, they'll find one of two things. Either they'll find that they're on a decent track. They are in agreement. They meaning an alignment is what I call it. They know what they want. And when they audit the why and really dig down, they realize, okay, I know why I want it. I'm in agreement with the why. Meaning you may come down to the end and find why, and it's to prove my dad wrong. You're probably not going to be in agreement with that when you finally realize, man, that's why I'm doing that. Really, it's just to prove my dad. You're probably not going to be in agreement. Great, but in doing that, you'll find either conviction, further enhanced, increased, fueled conviction towards where you're going. Get there more efficiently. Get there faster. Get there more fulfilled, or you'll find freedom to go, man, I don't want that. I thought I did, but I don't. I was doing this recently with thinking that we needed to invest, and do some real estate and get some, buy a house at a place we like and VRBO the other and whatever. And I just thought it's a good idea. I've got friends in real estate. I understand it better than, stock market type stuff. And I thought we should do that. Should. You hear the should right there, which was the red flag. And I finally realized, I don't want to. I don't, what a hassle. I'm at a point now where I just want to deal with less. So if I've got money at this point, I'm going to invest it in my business. I'm going to invest it in real estate of the mind, in essence. That's where I'm comfortable. That's what's working. That's what I'm interested in. Man, just let that go. But I was so close to going down that road and pursuing a home and trying to do the financing and whatnot and not paying attention to, I really didn't want to. It was dragging me down. And to come back to, emotional awareness, I think guys we're the worst. We're not bred to know about our emotions. It sounds weak and stuff, yet we're dying from it. I had a guy, Richie Norton, who's become a good friend, just an incredible guy. His latest book is called Anti-Time Management, but such an inspired guy, such a whole guy. And he's whole. What's helped him, I hope this doesn't happen to all of us, but he's had some pretty significant, he's had real traumas, big T traumas in his life, like losing a kid and some other things. And that dude is whole. But he was talking about this concept of emotions and how he talked about burnout, which is a great topic for guys. And he pointed something out that's elementary, but I just hadn't thought about it. And he says, we reach burnout and we think burnout comes from working too much. And he says, man, that doesn't line up with his experience at all. He says the most inspired, whole, fulfilled people he knows they work a ton at something they really dig. They don't just believe in it altruistically. They have fun too. It's hard work still, but they enjoy it, man. It's awesome, and they were working plenty. He says the guys he sees that burn out, it's not from working too much. It's working from something that doesn't line up. They're out of alignment. They're not enjoying it. They've got negative feelings. They've got anxiety, whatever. That's what causes burnout. Man, it totally rang true because I've had burnout, literally, from doing some activities, and mine weren't even work so much related. Some of it was family related, where I thought I was trying to be Superman, trying to be God, trying to be responsible for everything. And I wasn't whole and I burn out. And yet I've had, work things that I've done, even my past athletic career, man, I was doing a lot and it was awesome. There's no burnout in sight, and we're back to the emotions.
Would it be safe to say that a lot of this stems from identity issues?
Yes, I believe so.
Because as you're talking, and friends who I've talked to who've identified with particular groups or ideologies that later changed into another idea. I had one friend in college. He came to college. He was very charismatic, very word of faith. And then he was Baptist, and then he was Assemblies of God, and then he was Catholic, and then he was Orthodox, and he kept putting his identities into all these new things. And what I think I've come away with is a lot of people haven't stopped long enough to question who they are and what they believe. And like you said, go deep. And so they keep trying to find new ways to place, oh, well, I'm this. Oh, well, I'm this, to become happy. And it's all exterior versus going deep within your own soul. So in that process, let's say someone for a while has been trying to find their identity in other things. And you talked about, okay, well, what's your purpose for your family, your money, and you go why to every answer until they get to their authentic question. Once they find out, okay, you know what, I do struggle with identity issues. And then how do they, after they go back and feel like they found their why, maybe their true source of identity, then how do they start living from it?
We have no idea. It's a great question. Insightful question, Evan. We have no idea how to do that at all. It reminds me of, I've had Donald Miller on my show a couple times, author a lot of people know. He wrote a lot of books, Blue Like Jazz and A Million Miles in 1,000 Years. Now he's known as the business guy for Business Made Simple, I think is his new name. But he shared probably, I don't know which book it was actually. It might have been Scary Close, which is an incredible book for guys, I think. And he shared going to an event led by another guy I had on the show. It's in Nashville. I'm missing the name of the event. It's called like Alive or something like that. But he went there 5 days or something like that. And for the first 2 or 3 days, they were not allowed to say what they did or what their roles are. So if you're a father, you keep it to yourself. If you're a husband, keep it to yourself. If you're like him, famous author, very acclaimed, keep it to yourself. And he said he just didn't know how to relate to people. And it just gnawed at him. He's like coming out of his skin. And he realized how much of his identity was attached to what he does. And man, I can say this again. It's one of those things easy to say, but it's so hard to detach ourselves from. And I played with it some. I've got a big family, so I do getaways. Go out, take off on my own for a few days, and go to. For me, it's just an outlying city here in the Colorado mountains. But I'm anonymous, and I try to do that. And I don't spend a whole lot of time communing with people. I'm there to be alone. But if I do, just to think I'm who am I without everything, without being a dad, without being a husband, without being a podcaster, without having been a pro cyclist, whatever. Who am I? We don't know how to answer that question, and we have to come down to character qualities. And I'm the kind of guy who does, who does this and who doesn't do that. And back to what you said, attaching. All right, for lack of understanding of the core of us, we have to attach our identity to things and beliefs even. And that'll rock your world. I did a show with a guy named Andy Norman. He wrote a book called Mental Immunity. But the second half of his book is really about beliefs and how if you take all the things you believe and then again ask that question, why? And then say, are you willing, comfortable to take that belief and put it on the table to be examined and questioned, to let go of it? Oh my gosh, we don't know how to do that. And what it blows you away is you realize, man, I've got beliefs that I'm staunch about. And it's really just because it's attached to me. And because if I let go of it, it invalidates me. It invalidates what I've worked towards, what I've built myself on. And we don't have, and he's really good. I really liked the discussion I had with him because it kind of got me to feeling like, gosh, how weak it is if I am not able to take my belief and set it out on the table and say, well, let's question it. Let me detach from that and be willing to question that. Oh, especially as you're talking about being at a pastor's conference, to do that with our faith, especially if it's a staunch religious faith. I mean, that's blasphemous. You don't do that. I mean, I grew up in the Christian church. Jesus is the way, the only way, I mean, that's it. You don't question it. Well, really? Everybody in the Bible did. The disciples questioned it. They struggled with it, but we can't.
Jesus at Gethsemane questioned it. He's like, is there any other way? Let this cup pass from me.
And we don't, though. And I thought, gosh, how weak. I don't want to be that weak. And so again, what we attach ourselves to, I mean, and we're back to emotions, and character qualities. I mean, I want to attach myself to being, well, gosh, fruits of the Spirit. I want to attach myself to that. I want to attach myself to morals and ethics and compassion and grace and, a lot of things, qualities, and not, though, attach myself to, I'm a podcaster, because that can be taken away. If I get a tree branch to the throat today on my ride and I can't talk, I'm out. I'm going to have to go to book writing. And then if I smash my hands and can't write or type, I'm gonna have to figure out something else. Maybe I'll have to speak, be a speaker. Yeah. I mean, what do we do? Or I don't do any of those things. I go do something totally different. But who am I without those things? We don't really know as a culture, and especially as men, how to do that.
So how do we build, going back to the last question, once we start figuring out like, okay, here's all the whys, how do we start building who we want to be out of the values that we've come to?
How do we build how we want to be? I mean, my first thought on the topic that we were on is to detach ourselves. Who am I without that? Who am I if I am not for me? I mean, I'm a father. I've got 9 kids. I've got 4 grandkids, one that's in the room over here next to me. Who am I without that, though? Am I still whole? Am I still worthy? Who am I if I had never been a pro athlete? Who am I if I'm not a podcaster? I'm an anonymous. I thought about that. I have to play the games with myself to get myself in there. I do a lot of woodwork at my house. It's a hobby. Build kind of artistic furniture and bunk beds and walls and stuff for the house.
Bookshelves.
The bookshelves and decks and all kinds of stuff. And I've had people go, "Oh my gosh, my table. I have a table, of aspen wood table that I built from wood right here on our land and sits 14 people." And I've had multiple people go, "Oh my gosh, man, you should just make these. You could sell them for thousands, And I've thought about, what if I did that? And I'm just anonymous. Nobody knows me. I just make them. I put them out there. Could I do that without any acclaim? And to question, again, just to play those games, play those scenarios and go, who am I? Who do I want to be and really detach? Can I detach? I think I had this in the book, if you woke up in a city and it was just you and you're good, you got a job or, doing something you enjoy, whatever. But again, you're just starting afresh. Who would you make yourself up to be? You can't cite anything you've done in the past. Who would you decide you want to be? What do you want to be known for?
This also goes back to rest, because I don't know about you, Kevin, but I can very easily, by the end of the day, have overload of stimulation from all the advertising, from movies, from billboards to the conversations, and I'm just overloaded with people trying to get my attention, people trying to tell me what I want, what I don't want. I mean, I open up my email every time and there's 50 new emails I have to go delete and I have to sift through. The reason why this goes back to rest and how you get away and you ask these questions as well is because sometimes, like, if we don't rest and we're overloaded with all these things, then it doesn't give us the opportunity to self-discover.
Yeah.
It doesn't give us the ability to dig deep and learn who we are, to audit ourselves. And so when we take rest and when we take self-audit and apply it together, then it allows us to honestly image Christ. You look at Jesus, and the Bible says he often withdrew. He consistently was living out of a place of overflow in his life, in his ministry. but he often withdrew.
Yeah.
And we don't know specifically what he did when he withdrew. It doesn't give a lot of context, but what we do know is he went and spent time with the Father. And in that process, there was probably a lot of relational communication, but also identity being still, what's the word I'm looking for? Because Christ was fully human and still God.
Yeah.
And so with the human side of him being vulnerable and weak and tired, that when he went and sought the Father, there was an outpouring of identity into his life.
I mean, I appreciate you saying that. He got tired. You know, they walked a long ways or they rode a long ways or whatever and got physically tired. We're in a weird place in time where we so often we're not really physically tired. We can go through the day without moving. I can conduct my day without leaving this chair for the most part. You know, we can have food delivered to our door already made. We all know that we don't have to move. And even if we go somewhere, you know, it's in a car, in an elevator, whatever, we don't have to move. So in essence, a lot of times if we don't go out and exercise, we're not physically tired. You know, if somebody's out there and they got a manual job, I kind of envy some of that, you know, that you just get your exercise by doing your work. But we don't these days. We are so mentally, like you talked about, back to emotionally tired. And I think it eats away at us far more than the physical output. And you know, I was thinking as you talk that it reminds me of the concept of how do people experience you, and how do you want people to experience you? One of my closest friends, best friend, Randy James, doctor, we worked together for a long time, and it was, I don't know how many years ago, 6-7 years ago. And at some point I was relaying something. He says, dude, you love being an entrepreneur. I think it was back when I was really teaching entrepreneurship. He says, you love that, but I mean, what are you showing your kids? That being an entrepreneur is this hectic, harried, chaotic, you know, life? Do you think that's going to be attractive to them? After I called him a jerk, I had to admit, no, it's terrible. I mean, I totally, like, what am I doing? This isn't attractive to them. Why would they want to do this? You know, I can say the same thing as they see me being this harried, overworked, overburdened father. Well, man, none of them, I'm not going to have any grandkids because they're not going to want that. What am I showcasing to them? Now, pair that now with one of the sweetest things that I'm holding on to that happened last week. If anybody does know Zig Ziglar and read his books, they know of his acclaimed assistant, lifetime assistant, Lori Majors. She's still alive. She still supports Ziglar, and I'm grateful to have her still supporting me. And I came to this event, and we had a moment together. And she said, Kevin, it's been a couple of years since I've been with her in person. She says, Kevin, you seem more at peace than you were last time. Oh, Lori, I said that was worth coming to this event just to hear that. There's no testimony that I want to hear more. Even if I hear, oh my gosh, Kevin, your message, you know, changed my life, and all the things you do, you know, impacted me. She wasn't the only one. I had a couple other people give me testimonies at the event and afterwards about my peaceful demeanor. One even said a monk-like demeanor, and they just, and I didn't realize I'm working on that. But to hear the testimony of that I came across peaceful and calm and present with you, oh my gosh, that's the best testimony ever. And it's totally the opposite of what I have striven for most of my life. In the past, people would just said, oh my gosh, I can't believe all the stuff you do.
Yeah.
Well,
that's fascinating, Kevin, because I had something very similar happen today, actually. After the pastors' conference, I was taking pastors to the airport, and then I dropped off the rental van, and I was picked up by one of the people within the organization. And I was making a joke how my wife had the hardest ministry this weekend more than I, because the kids were a handful, she said. And I looked at the lady and I was like, yeah, when I'm not there, you know, because I have a position of authority and a position of peace that brings true to the house. But I never looked at myself as the position of peace. I looked at myself as, okay, I'm the law. Mm-hmm. And what she said, she goes, well, Evan, you're a very peaceful person, so I can see how if you're gone. I'm like, really? You think I'm peaceful? Because I feel anything but that on the inside. And I think sometimes we identify with all the crap that we know about ourselves that we often forget some of the perceptions that other people see, both positively and negatively. We call that Johari's window. It's the thing that people see about you that you can't see about yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that having trusted advisors to both point out the positives and the negatives are extremely helpful in shaping.
Yeah.
Because Kevin, like you said, dude, that's a gift. Because now not only do you have that behavior, but now that's probably going to become more of a belief in your life too.
You know, it's interesting. You talked about, you know, authority in your home and whatnot, and to poke at, I'll admittedly do that at the Christian religious construct, which again, I grew up in, I know well, I have respect for aspects of that. But we have, especially for men, we have that concept of being the spiritual leader. And I'm not going to go into the doctrine of that, but I more look at how about if you're just the spirit leader in your home, and if you have the influence in your home of a type of spirit. Let's go back to the fruits of the spirit. How you doing? How would your family attest to? Do they see love, patience, you know, peace, joy, gentleness, self-control? Do they see those things, or do they see sternness, irritation, anxiety, frustration? Man, that's one of the most convicting things. If that's my primary leading, and actually, I think if you don't do that well, the rest of the things you're trying to do won't take root anyways.
Yeah.
You try to be a spiritual leader while your spirit's complete crap. Yeah, good luck in that. You'll drive people the other way. You'll drive your kids out of spirituality. And, you know, and then it comes back to what you said, how we look at ourselves. And this is a topic that I have a group that I meet with a couple groups every week. And one of them, we got on the topic of how hard we are on ourselves. And we all hear that. Oh, we're hard on ourselves. You know, it shouldn't be so hard. We hear that. And I think it has no traction in our lives, because when it comes down to it, we as people, and I'm going to pick on men specifically, we really think that's our job. We really think that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to be hard on ourselves. We're supposed to be a taskmaster and a slave driver to ourselves. And when I looked at that, when it was posed to me, I thought, yeah, you know what? That's really a belief. Honest to God, it's a belief. I just got to admit, it's a belief that I think I'm supposed to just kick my own butt and not and be irritated at myself for what I haven't done. That's how I get myself, you know, I don't give myself a break. And yet I had to put myself in different shoes. So let's take my buddy Randy. And if I hear him come in and start griping about himself and griping about his performance and griping about how he didn't see something through or didn't do it right, my first honest to God thought is, dude, give yourself a break. One, it's not helping you any. Two, you're stupid. You do more and help more people than I've ever seen. How can you be so hard on yourself? I mean, it's totally, it makes no sense. It just seems stupid. You're sitting there ragging on yourself. It's not helping anything. And yet we do that to ourselves. And what I had a counselor tell me, Evan, that has been maybe the most convicting things, is he said, Kevin, you do that because you're so arrogant. You're so arrogant that you think you're better than Randy. You'd give him a break. You think you're better than your wife. You'd give her a break. You'd look at all of them and not just give them a break, but you would literally look at them and go, oh my gosh, you're being way too hard on yourself. You're totally discounting your own merit and glory and whatnot. But Kevin, you though, don't do that for yourself because you think you're better or you're supposed to be better. How does that fit? And it doesn't. It's the dumbest thing ever if you look at it like that. And so I have that awareness I'm holding to Evan that it's arrogant, but I still feel that way over here. I still have that belief that I'm trying to detach from. And it's really hard. It's programmed into me and I'm trying to reprogram that thing. And I'm making some grounds. I've got some testimony for that. Man, that's really hard. And I think if we look at any guy at the core, that's what we really believe. We believe we're supposed to kick our own butts, and we wouldn't believe it for anybody else, but we do for us. And I'm going to side that it's a form of arrogance, and that's convicting to me.
Well, Kevin, thank you for that insight and coming on to the Whole Person podcast today. If you're listening, make sure you subscribe either to our YouTube channel or on the podcast through whatever device that you're listening to. And if you would leave us a review and some comments on Facebook or even YouTube, that would be great. We love you guys. And Kevin, before we go, if people want to connect with you, how can they find you and your book?
Yeah, and the best way to connect, I mean, you can find the book, What Drives You, anywhere. But my podcast is where I am 4 times a week, Self-Helpful, or just type in Kevin Miller. And that's where I connect with people and have amazing, insightful guests that it's kind of a journey to walk with me as I see how they're changing my life and impacting me.
Yeah. And I'm just going to be straight again, everyone. I am where I am in my own life, in part because of the man who I get to interview today. Because the lessons that I learned, the belief that got built through the lessons and the self-discovery he went through. And since he was open to do those things, and Kevin, I don't know if you remember this, but I reached out years ago about like, hey, what if there was someone who did an interview with people about where they were in life and was open and honest about some of the changes that they needed to make, and they got advice. And you thought about it. You even told Tom about it, because I remember listening to an episode where you guys discussed it. And I was like, hey, that's my idea. And because I was like, hey, I want to do this. I want to be part of that ecosystem. And then when you messaged me back, you're like, Evan, we just don't have the bandwidth to do that, but that's a great idea, and you should probably go do that. And then it took me like 3 or 4 years to go do it.
Hey, I had Zig Ziglar told me, he said, Kevin, you need to write a book. Took me a decade to get to it, so I feel that.
Well, man, thank you so much for coming on to the show, and I look forward to talking to you soon, man.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for what you're doing to bless people, Evan.
You bet. You too, man. Take care.